Chapter 10. The Performance Space. Charlotte basically didn't stop talking as we headed down to the second floor. She was describing the play they had put on last year, which was Oliver. She played Oliver even though she's a girl. As she said this, she pushed open the double doors to a huge auditorium. At the end of the room was a stage. Charlotte started skipping toward the stage. Julian ran after her and then turned around halfway down the aisle. Come on, he said loudly, waving for me to follow him, which I did. There were like hundreds of people in the audience that night, said Charlotte, and it took me a second to realize she was still talking about Oliver. I was so nervous. I had so many lines and I had all these songs to sing. It was so hard. Although she was talking to me, she really didn't look at me much. On opening night, my parents were all the way in the back of the auditorium, like where Jack is right now. But when the lights are off, you can't see that far back. So I was like, where are my parents? Where are my parents? And then Mr. Resnick, our theater arts teacher last year, he said, Charlotte, stop being such a diva. And I was like, okay. And then I spotted my parents and I was totally fine. I didn't forget a single line. While she was talking, I noticed Julian staring at me out of the corner of his eyes. This is something I see people do a lot with me. They think I don't know they're staring, but I can tell from the way their heads are tilted. I turned around to see where had gone. He had stayed in the back of the auditorium like he was bored. We put on a play every year, said Charlotte. I don't think he's going to want to be in the school play, Charlotte, said Julian sarcastically. You can be in the play without actually being in the play, Charlotte answered, looking at me. You can do the lighting, you can paint the backdrops. Oh yeah, whoopee, said Julian, twirling his finger in the air. But you don't have to take theater arts elective if you don't want to, Charlotte said, shrugging. There's dance or chorus or band. There's leadership. Only dorks take leadership, Julian interrupted. Julian, you're being so obnoxious, said Charlotte, which made Julian laugh. I'm taking the science elective, I said. Cool, said Charlotte. Julian looked directly at me. The science elective is supposedly the hardest elective of all, he said. No offense, but if you've never ever been in a school before, why do you think you're suddenly going to be smart enough to take the science elective? I mean, have you ever even studied science before? Like real science, not the kind you do in kids? Yeah, I nodded. He was homeschooled, Julian, said Charlotte. So teachers came to his house? Asked Julian, looking puzzled. No, his mother taught him, answered Charlotte. Is she a teacher? Julian said. Is your mother a teacher? Charlotte asked me. No, I said. So she's not a real teacher, said Julian, as if that proved his point. That's what I mean. How can someone who's not a real teacher actually teach science? I'm sure you'll do fine, said Charlotte, looking at me. Let's just go to the library now, Jack called out, sounding really bored. Why is your hair so long? Julian said to me. He sounded like he was annoyed. I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged. Can I ask you a question? He said. I shrugged again. Didn't he just ask me a question? What's the deal with your face? I mean, were you in a fire or something? Julian, that was so rude, said Charlotte. I'm not being rude, said Julian. I'm just asking a question. Mr. Tustman said we could ask questions if we wanted to. Not rude question like that, said Charlotte. Besides, he was born like that. That's what Mr. Tushman said. You just weren't listening. I was so listening, said Julian. I just thought maybe he was in a fire too. Geez, Julian, said Jack. Just shut up. You shut up, Julian yelled. Come on, August, said Jack. Let's just go to the library already. I walked toward Jack and followed him out of the auditorium. He held the double doors open to me, and as I passed by, he looked at me right in the face, kind of daring me to look back at him, which I did. Then I actually smiled. I don't know. Sometimes when I have feeling like I'm almost crying, it can turn into almost laughing feeling. And that must have been the feeling I was having then because I smiled almost like I was going to giggle. The thing is, because of the way my face is, people who don't know me very well won't don't always get what don't always get that I'm smiling. My mouth doesn't go up at the corners the way other people mouths do. It just goes straight across my face. But somehow Jack will got that I had smiled at him, and he smiled back. Julian's a jerk, he whispered before Julian and Charlotte reaches. But dude, you're gonna have to talk. He said this seriously, like he was trying to help me. But I nodded at Julian and Charlotte caught up to us. We were all quiet for a second, all of us just kind of nodding, looking at the floor. Then I looked up at Julian. The word supposedly, by the way, I said. What are you talking about? You said supposedly before, I said. I did not. Yeah, you did. Charlotte nodded. You said science elective is supposedly really hard. I heard you. I absolutely did not, he insisted. Whatever, said Jack. Let's just go. Yeah, let's just go, agreed Charlotte, following Jack down the stairs to the next door. I started to follow her, but Julian cut right in front of me, which actually made me stumble backwards. Oops, sorry about that, said Julian, but I could tell from the way he looked at me that he wasn't really sorry at all.
Chapter 11 The Deal. Mom and Mr. Touchman were talking when we got back to the office. Mrs. Gasha was the first to see us come back, and she started smiling her shiny smile as we walked in. So, August, what did you think? Did you like what you saw? She asked. Yeah, I nodded, looking over at Mom. Jack, Julian, and Charlotte were standing by the door, not sure where to go or if they were still needed. I wonder what doubt they'd been told about me before they met me. Did you see the baby chick? Mom asked me. As I shook my head, Julian said, Are you talking about the baby chicks in science? Those get donated to a farm at the end of every school year. Oh, said Mom, disappointed. Bet they hatch new ones every year in science. Julian added. So August will be able to see them again in the spring. Oh, good, said Mom, eyeing me. They were so cute. August. I wish you wouldn't talk to me like I was a baby in front of other people. So August, said Mrs. Touchman, does this guy show you around enough, or do you want to see more? I realized I forgot to ask them to show you the gym. We did anyway, Mr. Touchman, said Julian. Excellent, said Mr. Touchman. And I told him about the school play and some of the electives, said Charlotte. Oh no, she said suddenly. We forgot to show him the art room. That's okay, said Mr. Touchman. But we can show it to him now, Charlotte offered. Don't we have to pick Via up soon? I said to Mom. That's what I'll signal for my telling Mom if I really wanted to leave. Oh, you're right, said Mom, getting up. I could tell she was pretending to check the time on her watch. I'm sorry, everybody. I lost track of the time. We had to go pick up my daughter at her new school. She's taking an official tour today. This part wasn't a lie. That Via was checking out her new school today. The part that was a lie was that we were picking her up at the school, which we weren't. She was coming home with Dad later. Where does she go to school? Asked Mrs. Touchman, getting up. She's studying Faulkner High School this fall. Wow, is that not an easy school to get in? Good for her. Thank you, said Mom, nodding. Easier tip slaps though. The A train down to 86, then the cross toppers all the way to its side. Takes an hour that way, but it's just a 15-minute drive. Evie was it. I know a couple kids who got into Faulkner and loved it, said Mr. Touchman. We should really go, Mom, I said, tugging at her pocketbook. We said goodbye kind of quickly after that. I think Mr. Touchman was a little surprised that we were leaving so suddenly, and then I wondered if he would blame Jack and Charlotte, even though it was really only Julian who made me feel kind of bad. Everyone was really nice. I made sure to tell Mr. Touchman before we left. I look forward to having you as a student, said Mr. Touchman, patting my back. Bye, I said to Jack, Charlotte, and Julian, but I didn't look at them or look up at all until I left the building.
Chapter 12 Home. As soon as we had walked at least half a block from the school, Mom said, "So, how did it go? Did you like it?" "Not yet, Mom. When we get home," I said. The moment we got inside the house, I ran to my room and threw myself onto my bed. I could tell Mom didn't know what was up, and I guess I really didn't either. I felt very sad and a tiny bit happy at the exact same time, kind of like that longing crying feeling all over again. My dog Daisy followed me into the room, jumped on the bed, and started licking me all over my face. "Who's the good girlie?" I said in my dead voice. "Who's the good girlie?" "Is everything okay, sweetie?" Mom said. She wanted to sit down beside me, but Daisy was hugging the bed. "Excuse me, Daisy." She sat down, nudging Daisy over. "Were those kids not nice to you, Augie?" "Oh no," I said, only half lying. "They were okay." "But were they nice?" Mr. Trishman went out his way to tell me what sweet kids they are. "Uh-huh," I nodded, but I kept looking at Daisy, kissing her on the nose and rubbing her ear until her back left did that little flare scratch shake. "That boy Julian seemed especially nice," Mom said. "Oh no, he was the least nice. I like Jack, though. He was nice. I thought his name was Jack Will, but it's just Jack. Wait, maybe I'm getting them confused. Which one was the one with the dark hair that was brushed forward?" "Julian. And he wasn't nice?" "No, not nice." "Oh," she thought about this for a second. "Okay, so he's the kind of kid who's one way in front of grown-ups and another way in front of kids?" "Yeah, I guess." "Ah, he's though," she answered, nodding. "He was like, 'So, August, what's the deal with your face?'" I sat looking at Daisy the whole time. "Were you in a fight or something?" Mom didn't say anything. When I looked up at her, I could tell she was completely shocked. "He didn't say it in a mean way," I said quickly. "He was just asking." Mom nodded. "But I really like Jack," I said. He was like, "Shut up, Julian." And Charlotte was like, "You are so rude, Julian." Mom nodded again. She pressed her fingers on her forehead like she was pushing against a head cake. "I'm so sorry, Augie," she said quietly. Her cheeks were bright red. "No, it's okay, Mom, really. You don't have to go to school if you don't want, sweetie." "I want to," I said. "Augie, really, Mom, I want to." And I wasn't lying.
Chapter 13 First Day Jitters. Okay, so I admit that the first day of school, I was so nervous that the butterflies in my stomach were more like pigeons flying around my insides. Mom and Dad were probably a little nervous too, but they act all excited for me, taking pictures of me and Via before we left the house, since it was Via's first day of school too. Up until a few days before, we still weren't sure I'd be going to school at all. After my tour of the school, Mom and Dad had reversed sides on whether I should go or not. Mom was now the one saying I shouldn't go, and Dad was saying I should. Dad had told me that he was really proud of how I handled myself with Julian and that I was turning into quite the strong man. And I heard him tell Mom that he now thought she had been right all along, but Mom, I could tell, wasn't so sure anymore. When Dad told her that he and Via want to walk me to school today, since it was on the way to the subway station, Mom seemed relieved that we'd all be going together. And I guess I was too. Even though Beecher Prep is just a few blocks from our house, I've only been on that block a couple of times before. In general, I try to avoid blocks where there are a lot of kids roaming around. On a block, everybody knows me and I know everybody. I know every brick and every tree trunk and every crack in the sidewalk. I know Mrs. Gramady, the ladies who always sitting by her window, and the old guy who walks up and down the street whistling like a bird. I know the deli on the corner where Mom gets our bangles, and the waitresses at the coffee shop who all call me honey and give me lollipops whenever they see me. I love my neighborhoods of North River Heights, which is why it was so strange to be walking down these blocks and feeling it was all new to me suddenly. Medford Avenue, a street I've been down a million times, looked totally different for some reasons. Full of people I never saw before, waiting for buses and piercing shoulder. We crossed a Medford and turned up High Place. Via walked next to me like she usually does, and Mom and Dad were behind us. As soon as we turned the corner, we saw all the kids in front of the school, hundreds of them talking to each other in little groups, laughing, or standing with the parents who were talking with other parents. I kept my head way down. Everyone is just as nervous as you are, said Via in my ear. Just remember that this is everyone's first day of school, okay? Mr. Tushman was greeting students and parents in front of the school entrance. I have to admit, so far, nothing bad had happened. I didn't catch anyone staring or even noticing me. Only once did I look up to see some girls looking my way and whispering with their hands cupped over their mouths, but they looked away when they saw me notice them. We reached the front entrance. Okay, so this is it, big boy, said Dad, putting his hand on top of my shoulders. Have a great first day. I love you, said Via, giving me a big kiss and hug. You too, I said. I love you, Augie, said Dad, hugging me. Bye. And then Mom hugged me, but I could tell she was about to cry, which would have totally embarrassed me. So I just gave a fast hard hug, turned, and then disappeared into school.
Chapter 14 Locks. I went straight to room 301 on the third floor. Now I was glad I had gone on that little tour, because I knew exactly where to go and didn't have to look up once. I noticed that some kids were definitely staring at me now. I did my thing of pretending not to notice. I went inside the classrooms, and the teacher was writing on the chalkboard, while all the kids started sitting at a different desk. The desks were in a half circle facing the chalkboard, so I chose a desk in the middle toward the back, which I thought would make it harder for anyone who stared at me. I still kept my head way down, just looking up enough from under my bags to see everyone's feet. As the desk started to fill up, I did notice that no one sat down next to me. A couple of times, someone was about to sit next to me, then changed his or her mind at the last minute and sat somewhere else. Hey August, it was Charlotte, giving me her little wave as she sat down at her desk in the front of the class, while anyone who ever chose to sit way up front of the class. I don't know. Hey, I said, nodding hello. Then I noticed Julian was sitting a few seats away from her, talking to some other kids. I know he saw me, but he didn't say hello. Suddenly, someone was sitting down next to me. It was Jack, real Jack. What's up? He said, nodding at me. Hey Jack, I answered, waving my hand, which I immediately wished I hadn't done, because it felt kind of uncool. Okay, kids, okay, everybody, sit down, said the teacher, now facing us. She had written her name, Miss Pestosser, on the chalkboard. Everybody find a seat, please. Come in, she said to a couple of kids who had just walked in the room. There is a seat there and right there. She hadn't noticed me yet. Now, the first thing I want everyone to do is stop talking and... She noticed me. Put your backpacks down and quiet down. She had only hesitated for a million of a second, but I could tell the moment she saw me. Like I said, I'm used to it by now. I'm going to take attendance and do the sitting chart, she continued, sitting on the edge of her desk. Next to her were 3 neat rows of accordance folders. When I call your name, come up and I will hand you a folder with your name on it. It contains your class schedules and your combination log, which you should not try to open until I tell you to. Your log number is written on the class schedules. Be forewarned that some lockers are not right outside this class, but down the hall. And before anyone even thinks to asking, no, you cannot switch lockers, and you can't switch locks. Then, if there is a time at the end of this period, we are going to get to know each other a little better. Okay? Okay. She picked up the clipboard on her desk and started reading the names out loud. Okay, so Julian Urbans, she said, looking up. Julian raised his hand and said, here, at the same time. Hi, Julian, she said, making a note on her sitting chart. She picked up the very first folder and held it out toward him. Come pick it up, she said, kind of no nonsense. He got up and took it from her. Simenatin. She handed a folder to each kid as she read off the names. As she went down the list, I noticed that the seat next to me was the only one still empty, even though there were 2 kids sitting at one desk, just a few seats away. When she called the name of one of them, a big kid named Henry Joplin, who already looked like a teenager, she said, Henry, there is an empty desk right over there. Why don't you take that seat? Okay. She handed him his folder and pointed to the desk next to mine, although I didn't look at him directly. I could tell Henry did not want to move next to me, just by the way he dragged his backpack on the floor as he came over, like he was moving in slow motion. Then he plopped his backpack up, really high on the right side of the desk, so it was kind of like a wall between his desk and mine. Maya Makowit, Miss Petoser was saying. Here, said the girl about 4 desks down from me. Minori. Here, said the kid that had been sitting with Henry Joplin as he walked back to his desk. I saw him shoot Henry a poor you look. August Pullman, said Miss Petoser. Here, I said quietly, raising my hand a bit. Hi, August, she said, smiled at me very nicely when I went up to get my folder. I kind of felt everyone's eye burning into my back for a few seconds. I stood in front of the class, and everybody looked down when I walked back to my desk. I resisted spinning the combination when I sat down, even though everyone else was doing it, because she had specifically told not to. I was already pretty good at opening locks anyway, because I had used them on my bike. Henry kept trying to open his lock, but couldn't do it. He was getting frustrated and kind of cursing under his breath. Miss Petoser called out the next few names. The last name was Jack Will. After she handed Jack his folders, she said, Okay, so everybody write your combination down somewhere safe that you won't forget, okay? But if you do forget, which happened at least 3.2 times per semester, Mrs. Gaisero has a list of all the combination numbers. Now go ahead, take your logs out of your folders and spend a couple of minutes practicing how to open them, though I know some of you went ahead and did that anyway. She was looking at Henry when she said that. And in the meanwhile, I tell you guys a little something about myself, and then you guys can tell me a little about yourself, and we can get to know each other. So good, good. She smiled at everyone, though I felt like she was smiling at me the most. It wasn't a shiny smile, like Missy Geyser's smile, but a normal smile, like she meant it. She looked very different from what I thought teachers were going to look like, I guess. I thought she looked like Miss Ford from Jimmy's Neutrons, an old lady with a big bun on top of her head. But in fact, she looked exactly like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 4. Haircut kind of like her boys, and a big white shirt like her tunic. She turned around and started writing on the chalkboard. Henry still couldn't get his lock to open, and he was getting more and more frustrated every time someone else popped one open. He got really annoyed when I was able to open mine on the first try. The funny thing is, if he hadn't put the backpack between us, I most definitely would have offered to help him.
Chapter 15. Around the room. Missy Petersa told us a little about who she was. It was boring stuff about where she originally came from and how she always wanted to teach. And she left her job on Wall Street about 6 years ago to pursue her dream and teach kids. She ended by asking if anyone had any questions, and Julian raised his hand. Yes, she had to look at the list to remember his name. Julian, that's cool about how you are pursuing your dream, he said. Thank you, you're welcome. He smiled proudly. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Julian? Actually, here's what I want everyone to do. Think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. Actually, wait a minute. How many of you came from the Bachelor Lower School? About half the kids raised their hands. Okay, so a few of you already know each other, but the rest of you, I guess, are new to school, right? Okay, so everyone think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. And if you know some of the other kids, try to think of things they don't already know about you, okay? Okay, so let's start with Julian, and we will go around the room. Julian scrunched up his face and started tapping his forehead like he was thinking really hard. Okay, whenever you are ready, Missy Petersa said. Okay, so number 1 is that do me a favor and start with your names, okay? Missy Petersa interrupted. It will help me remember everyone. Oh, okay, so my name is Julian, and the number 1 thing I'd like to tell everyone about myself is that I just got Battleground Mystic for my Wii, and it's totally awesome. And the number 2 thing is that we got a ping pong table this summer. Very nice, I love ping pong, said Missy Peterson. Does anyone have any question for Julian? Is Battleground Mystic multiplayer or 1 player? Said the kid named Myers. Not those kind of questions, guys, said Missy Peterson. Okay, so how about you? She pointed to Charlotte, probably because her desk was closer to the front. Oh sure, Charlotte didn't hesitate for even a second, like she knew exactly what she wanted to say. My name is Charlotte. I have 2 sisters, and we just got a new puppy named Suki in July. We got her from an animal shelter, and she is so cute. That's great, Charlotte. Thank you, said Missy Peterson. Okay, then who's next?
Chapter 16 Lamb to the Slaughter. Like a lamb to the slaughter, something that you say about someone who rests somewhere calmly, not knowing that something unpleasant is going to happen to them. I googled it last night. That's what I was thinking when Miss Pedosa called my name and suddenly it was my turn to talk. My name is August, I said, and yeah, I kinda mumbled it. What? Said someone. Can you speak up, honey? Said Miss Pedosa. My name is August, I said louder, forcing myself to look up. I have a sister named Via, and a dog named Daisy, and that's it. Wonderful, said Miss Petrosa. Anyone have questions for August? No one said anything. Okay, you're next, said Miss Petrosa to Jack. Wait, I have a question for August, said Julian, raising his hand. Why do you have that tiny braid in the back of your hair? Is that like a Padawan thing? Yeah, I struck nodded. What's a Padawan thing? Miss Peterson smiling at me. It's from Star Wars, answered Julian. A Padawan is a Jedi apprentice. Oh, interesting, answered Miss Peterson, looking at me. So, are you into Star Wars, August? I guess, I nodded, not looking up because what I really wanted was to just lie under the desk. Who's your favorite character? Julian asked. I started thinking maybe he wasn't so bad. Jango Fett. What about Darth Sidious? He said. Do you like him? Okay guys, you can talk about Star Wars stuff at reset, said Miss Peterson cheerfully. But let's keep going. We haven't heard from you yet, she said to Jack. Now it was Jack's turn to talk, but I admit I didn't hear a word he said. Maybe no one got this Darth Sidious thing, and maybe Julian didn't mean anything at all, but in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious' face gets burnt by the Sith lightning and becomes totally deformed. His skin gets all shriveled up and his own face just kind of melts. I peeked at Julian and he was looking at me. Yeah, he knew what he was saying.
Chapter 18 Lunch. Via had warned me about lunch in middle school, so I guess I should have known it would be hard. I just hadn't expected it to be this hard. Basically, all the kids from all the 5th grade classes poured into the cafeteria at the same time, talking loudly and bumped into one another while they ran to different tables. One of the lunchroom teachers said something about no seat saving allowed, but I didn't know what she meant, and maybe no one else did either, because just about everybody was saving seats for their friends. I tried to sit down at one table, but the kid in the next chair said, "Oh, sorry, but somebody else is sitting here." So I moved to an empty table and just waited for everyone to finish stampeding and the lunchroom teacher to tell us what to do next. As she started telling us the cafeteria rules, I looked around to see where Jack was sitting, but I didn't see him on my side of the room. Kids were still coming in as the teachers started calling the first few tables to get their trays and stand on line at the counter. Julian, Henry, and Miles were sitting at a table toward the back of the room. Mom had packed me a cheese sandwich, graham crackers, and a juice box, so I didn't need to stand on line when my table was called. Instead, I just concentrated on opening my backpack, pulling out my lunch bag, and slowly opening the aluminum foil wrapping of my sandwich. I could tell I was being stared at without even looking up. I knew that people were nudging each other, watching me out of the corners of their eyes. I thought I was used to those kinds of stares by now, but I guess I wasn't. There was one table of girls that I knew were whispering about me because they were talking behind their hands. Their eyes and whispers kept bouncing over to me. I hate the way I eat. I know how weird it looks. I had a surgery to fix my cleft palate when I was a baby, and then a second cleft surgery when I was 4. But I still have a hole in the roof of my mouth, and even though I had jaw alignment surgery a few years ago, I have to chew food in the front of my mouth. I didn't even realize how this looked until I was at a birthday party once, and one of the kids told the mom of the birthday boy he didn't want to sit next to me because I was too messy with all the food crumbs shooting out my mouth. I know the kid wasn't trying to be mean, but he got in big trouble later, and his mom called my mom that night to apologize. When I got home from the party, I went to the bathroom mirror and started eating a satin cracker to see what I looked like when I was chewing. The kid was right. I ate like a tortoise. If you have ever seen a tortoise eating, like some prehistoric swamp thing,